But how do we ensure that our relationships are audacious, right? What does it mean? So, one of the first things is, as I said, establishing boundaries, right? I think that is an act of love. I'm going to be honest. I feel like boundaries is an act of love because what it tells me is that you actually value yourself. And so I'm required to value you as well, right? I think boundaries is so important. I feel like I'm going to be talking about this over and over and over again. And I say that because I watch in my coaching business the struggle that people have to not only establish boundaries, but to hold fort to their boundaries, particularly in friendships and relationships, because of how they've been made to feel, right? And the way in which people will manipulate and kind of change the narrative around the boundary and making it about themselves and not about the fact that the person needs to self-preserve and self-love. Don't put baby in the corner. You know that line? Don't put baby in the corner. Aisha's not in the corner. I used to be in the corner. I used to be the one that was sitting quietly, waiting for someone to pick me, or to ask me the question or to give me an opportunity. What did I tell you has happened? Nothing. Nothing happened. All they thought was I was cute and quiet. I'm not. I am far from cute and quiet. But it took me a while to understand that I needed to show up, right? But I say that to say, reaching out and putting yourself out there, and seeking people who you can see, who you can feel, who you've experienced, are like-minded, are in that same space, can only serve to elevate you, right? I didn't know everything about podcasting. As a matter of fact, I knew nothing about podcasting. But I'm in this space because I decided to connect with someone who has created another platform for me to be my audacious self, to be able to share my message, to be able to just, again, spread a word that I hope you all find impactful, that empowers you to step out in your own world and in your own jobs and in your own workplace and in your own families to be the best version of yourself. But that would not have happened had I not reached out and not realized that I want to continue to build my audacious community so that I can continue to thrive, right? I have learned what it means to lead with purpose. I think I'd say in the beginning of this journey, I definitely felt like I was a jack of many trades, that I needed to do this, I needed to do that. And as I said to you, 2025 has been about a refinement, and this journey has been about honing in, becoming sharpshooter focused around what my purpose is, where my power is, and how to lead with purpose. And that has been a huge takeaway. And one of the first ones is, what does it mean to have audacity in a relationship? Right? An interesting thing that I heard from someone the other day, they're like, Aisha, you've actually reshaped or reframed the idea of the word audacity. Because when we hear audacity, oftentimes people are like, oh, someone is audacious enough to like be this way or act this way, or right. It has a little bit of a negative undertone. But the audacity that I'm talking about is really one where we're affirmed and confirmed in who we are, that we're unbothered and unruffled by what is happening around us, certainly taking note of what's happening around us, but that we don't allow the system structures, other people's limited mindset, people's belief assumptions about who we are to derail us from our desired state. So having the audacity is actually positive because it means that we're holding fort, we're holding strong, and that we're grounded in who we are. And so when we talk about friendships, when we talk about relationships, whether work or personal or intimate, the truth is we also have the audacity to self-preserve and make sure that the relationships and the people who are, I'm going to say, blessed enough to be in our life understand the fundamentals, the guidelines, the principles, the limitations as to what we believe to be acceptable or what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And so one of the first things is really defining what an audacious relationship looks like. And so why this is important is because really we live in a world where society loves labels. They love to tell people how to look, how to speak, how to talk, how you're supposed to show up, how you're supposed to dress, like all the things. There's so many like rules and regulations around what it means to show up. And I feel like living with audacity, I mean, certainly, we got to move in alignment. So this is not about going rogue or throwing caution to the wind, but it really is about how do we own our unique identity? How do we ensure that the mantras, the narrative, the assumptions, the expectations around what society says we're supposed to be like, talk like, show up like, dress like, don't overwhelm us, that we stay more focused and committed to understanding, celebrating, showing up as our authentic self as our unapologetic self over really trying to shapeshift into these, again, narratives or expectations that say how we're supposed to show up. So today is about owning our identity as another opportunity to live with audacity. And so there's going to be, I'm going to say 3 key T's, because now you're going to hear me use this in every way. That's what it means to build community, right? Community isn't built in one shot. It's actually built through evolution. It's built through our own self-discovery, through our own process of understanding who we are and what we need and where we're headed, right? So be comfortable in creating your own table. Be willing to be an initiator, right? I mean, think about entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is about putting yourself out there and starting and trying something until it becomes successful, right? So be prepared that in creating your audacious community, you might be loan member number 1, and you might be a membership of 1 for a really long time. And so I am grateful for every door that was shut. I am grateful for every mistake that I made. I'm grateful for every challenge that I decided not to just fold, but to push through, because it was in those moments that I really learned what I had capacity to do. And all of the things that I named when I just started this podcast wouldn't have happened if I just stayed in status quo, if I stayed in my comfort zone. Remember what I said? We create the conditions by which people engage with us. And if they feel that just that one time they can hook us, you better believe there'll be another time, just that one more time that they can hook us, right? Now listen, as I've said before, in friendships, it is a give and take. Friendships are not always 50-50. Sometimes you are giving more depending on where your friend is or where this coworker is, where you need to be pouring more into them than they have the ability to pour into you. And eventually, if times reverse or if there's a reversal, they're giving more at a time that maybe you don't have as much to give. But even in that sometimes uneven reciprocation, right? We have to be mindful in this audacious state of being that we're working towards, that we are maintaining our boundaries. Because again, the moment we open that door, we open that floodgate, you are letting people know that with a little bit extra push, with a little bit extra love and maybe some kind words, we can get past those boundaries. And once you get past that boundary, it's really hard to reel back. And what you can see is a shift in people's relationship when you really start holding fort, right? As I said, people get mad, they get annoyed, they say you're not a good friend. I've seen all the things. And again, if you're part of a community, hold tight, nurture it, right? Stay connected to it, feed it. And the way you do that is by continuing to be a beacon, right? To inspire, to empower, to be an example. That is the way in which we continue to live with audacity. That is the way in which we build our audacious community. If there's anyone who's watching this who's like, Aisha, I want to be part of your audacious community, come along. Membership is unlimited. Just make sure you got good vibes, because I don't do bad vibes. If you watch my bestie podcast, I don't do bad vibes at all. And I'm quick to cut people out with bad vibes. But if you're good vibes, and you're all about empowerment, you're all just about curating a space for people to self-actualize, self-discover, become more self-aware, to self-love, to self-care, to just do all the things, this is the community for you. All right? And the truth is, why? Like, I actually don't want to be like anybody else. I want to be my unique self. I want to be the best version of myself. I want to show up in all of my audacious fabulousness. I want to be able to, take up space how I know I need to. I want to be able to dress how I desire to. I want to be able to speak eloquently, speak openly, speak honestly, speak with assertiveness how I desire to be, and not allow the label of what society dictates or says how I'm supposed to be to take precedent, right? But the truth is, when we talk about owning our identity, is that we are inundated with labels. And why it's so important when we talk about living with audacity to understand what that truth is because we also need to understand how we move away from that, how we shift away from that. As I said, this is not about going rogue and saying, screw it to the rules of life, but it really is about owning our own path, right? This is what it means to own our identity. And so for me, there's 3 really important things when we talk about truth and when we talk about labels that we need to focus on. And I think it's so important that when we're on a journey of greatness, that yes, it is important to show gratitude to those who continue to be on this journey with us, but you better believe that you better give yourself a big up. Because were it not for your effort, were it not for your time, your commitment, your sacrifice, for those times that people don't see, right? Because of course what we show is all the great times, but for those moments where you might be in that corner thinking, why am I doing this? I salute you. This conversation isn't just about us being at the receiving end, right? Being audacious means that we're also constantly doing introspective work. Am I showing up as my best self? Am I making sure that I am, conducting myself in a way that is becoming, in a way that I want to be valued and seen? You find your voice, your courage gets stronger, and your dreams feel closer. And the reason being is that because you're in this beautiful network of people that are behind the scenes like, go Aisha, go Aisha, go Aisha. I mean, I have the friends that are out there in the streets like, go Aisha, which is amazing. But that beautiful, quiet encouragement and power that just gives me that motivation to keep going, I am truly, truly grateful for. So when you hear me say things like, don't wait, okay? This audacious community, don't sit in him and haw like, am I ready? Should build your community. Okay, you've heard it today. I don't know when you're watching this podcast, but effective today, build your community. Another big one when we talk about truth is that we need to be focused on authenticity over approval. Okay, this was a big, you want to talk about a lesson that I learned in my journey, I would say over the last 10 years. I, at one point in my life, was so focused on approval that I was so far from being authentic that when I look back at myself, I could see that I was not who I was, like my authentic self. It was evident in the way that I dressed. It was evident in the way that I sat. It was evident in the way that I talked. I was so focused on approval and people accepting me that I dishonored my authentic self. Authenticity over approval is fundamental in owning your identity, right? If we are constantly chasing other people's approval, listen, you could be chasing that approval for a long time, for like longer than you should. So be mindful, okay, when it comes to, again, owning your identity. I want to offer a very special shout out to my husband, Dwayne. It is going to be this year, 28 years of us being together, 18 years of marriage. And Dwayne has been, he's probably smiling right now because his name is being shouted out. But I really do got to honor him as well, because there have been many sacrifices that he has made in the name of me being able to achieve and do the things that I have done in my life. And it is nothing that I take for granted. So I want to just take a moment to tell you how much I love you, babe. I thank you for showing up and for being a cheerleader, sometimes for offering unsolicited opinions that I don't desire or think that I don't need, but really in hindsight, I know where they're coming from. And I know it's because you want me to do better and be better. And so I want to thank you. It requires you to be real. If you don't like me, if you dislike me, if you feel a type of way about me, I can guarantee you it is for the same reasons that people do like me, right? I'm authentic through and through, right? As I've said before, I am for some, I am not for everyone, and that's okay. I'm who I'm supposed to be for. And if you dislike me, that's cool. But there's no shifting. There's no difference in who I am authentically. And as I said, someone might be like, I love Aisha's energy. That's really what connects me to her. And some people are like, Aisha's energy is a lot, and I find it overwhelming, and I actually don't like it. But it's the same thing, right? Because remember, these are people that are in your corner, that in your tough times are going to be there to support you, and in your fabulous times or in your great times are going to be celebrating you. But you got to be meticulous, right? Not everybody deserves to be in your space. That's something that I talk about, again, when we talk about living with audacity. Not everybody's welcome into your space, right? You should see yourself as being one of privilege to be connected to you. Get comfortable with owning your greatness, because we set the tone. Again, this is another gem that I think I've shared in many episodes. We set the tone by which people engage with us. And if they see that we don't have high regard for ourselves, why are they going to have high regard for us? Right? As I said to you in the beginning, I am in such a deep place of gratitude for the people that continue to support me and love me, but also for the people who have chosen to leave me and to not be in my circle, because clearly you weren't destined to be in this space. So I thank you. I thank you for naturally removing yourself and creating more space for those who are deserving of my love and my friendship. Yeah, I thank you. Deuces. Another important piece, and this is a big one for me, is that in an audacious relationship, it means that I can show up with all the lights around me just as you can. So what that means is I am not required to dim my light in the name of our friendship, right? That my greatness doesn't actually cover you. If anything, the fact that we are friends, the fact that we have a relationship, that you are pulling from that light and shining your own light on yourself. If you are in a friendship of which you have to kind of diminish yourself, that you are not able to show up in your full glory and your full greatness because that other person is impacted negatively or feels like you need to step aside while they're outside, no. Again, there's an action behind this. And a lot of times, as I said, when it comes to that, we think, oh my God, it's so selfish. Like, I can't speak highly about myself. Why? Why can't you? You know, it's an exercise that I tell people to do a lot when I do coaching. I ask people to write a bio about themselves, and like a bio that would be read out loud. If you were a keynote speaker, if you were getting an award, if you were whatever it is, that even if it's not related to your business, write your bio and then have somebody read it out to you and listen, right? Or even read it out loud to yourself, right? Because a bio highlights your achievements, your greatness. Like when you read a bio, it needs to say all the stellar things about you, right? But I mean, like, you know, let's connect. Like I see what you're doing online, or I see what's happening. I'm going to give you the prime example of the beautiful result of reaching out. This podcast, the studio that I'm in. I'm connected to an incredible woman, founder and owner of Perspective Studios, because I decided to put myself out there in another incredible group, Black Queens of Durham, and say, hey, is there anybody out there who knows someone who runs, who has a studio to do a podcast? Tons of people said, Shireen. Lo and behold, look where I am. This journey has been anything but easy. There have been many challenges, many obstacles, many hardships, many failures. But as I've shared in my podcast over and over again, I think it is in those moments that you start to unpack and really understand where your strength is, where resilience lies, where your power is, where your purpose is. Okay. I'm probably going to talk about boundaries every episode in some shape or form, because really without boundaries, we are overdoing, overexerting, overexposing ourselves on a continuum. And anyone who has allowed anyone to ever violate or get past their boundaries knows what that feels like, right? When you don't have boundaries, we know what that feels like, right? So ensuring that you have boundaries is also a really important part of an audacious relationship. Because what it says is that I love myself enough to know when I need to maybe press pause and take a step back, so that I'm not negatively contributing to, maybe an issue in a friendship. You also need to know, as a friend, someone who's friends with me, what kind of my threshold is around what I will accept, what I will tolerate, what I believe in, right? Always making sure that we're in alignment. But boundaries are really important for ensuring that we have healthy friendships and relationships, right? Think about that. So these things don't just happen to you. They happen for you because of what you've put out there, right? Now, the last piece, which I said, taking empowered action, isn't just about thinking and dreaming and hoping and sharing. No, it's actually putting verbs in your sentence where you are now being intentional and taking intentional steps to make things happen for you. And so when we talk about owning our identity, there is an action that must be done, or actions that must take place in order to do that. Are you looking for a supportive network? Are you looking for a network of people just to love on you? Are you looking for people to hold you accountable? Are you looking for people to give you ideas, to motivate you? What are you looking for? What is it that you need in this audacious community that is going to make you feel good? And so, hold on, let me get my glass. I want to thank you all. You know, like Snoop Dogg, I want to thank you for being with me. But most of all, I want to thank me. I want to thank myself. I'm going to be real. I'm going to thank myself because were it not for my commitment to self, to the journey of self-discovery, self-actualization, self-awareness, I wouldn't be here.